Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Lost series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
George, the Archlector.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
As you all know, we're covering The Blade itself, the first book in the original trilogy. We'll be covering Questions and Nobility on this episode. So let's get started. Before we cover 2 chapters today, which is shorter than usual, but there's a reason for it, we want to just thank everyone again for all your support. Really, it's mind-boggling to witness, and we just would like to remind you again to, if you can, please just follow us on social media. It will make me feel better, but I mean, you're not obligated to, but I mean, you kind of are.
No, you
in a
are.
way. You are in a
You
way.
have no choice.
You are in a way.
Do it. No balls.
Do it. Again, just search Circle of the World podcast. It's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We've revamped the Facebook page, so go ahead and like it. And we're gonna try to keep coming up with cool and unique promos and skits, and it'll be coming your way via social media. We promise. Also, we will be expanding our YouTube videos. Harrison, you want to take this away?
Yeah, so I've already made a couple of tier list videos. If you guys are interested in that kind of thing, I'm going to be releasing more of those. George plans on making some character analysis and theory videos. We definitely want to expand the depth of YouTube and just more content for you guys because we really love doing it. So also in the future, we will be making some documentaries and battle scene playouts, I guess is the right word for it. Right. So it's going to take, we don't know when that's going to come out because it's going to take quite a bit of work on our part, but we're really excited to do it. So that's coming that way on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. George, do you want to say anything about those YouTube videos? Or you think Harrison?
No, I think Harrison really summed up really well, though.
Good job, Harrison. Also, we would like to spotlight a couple of artists that have been contributing to the podcast.
Yes, you might have noticed we have a new banner, which is the map of the Circle of the World, and that was done for us very kindly and free of charge by Instagram design.at.j. So go and check out his stuff if you've got the time. And thanks very much for that, man. That's an excellent help.
Yeah, we're using that in the YouTube videos and stuff as well for our banner. Mm-hmm. The other artist is a gentleman who goes by Barrett Freimeyer. He has his own website at barrettfreimeyer.myportfolio.com. He seems he does freelance work and stuff, but he's allowed us to use his First Law content free of charge, which is super nice. He didn't even ask us for a shout out, but we're going to do it anyways. And we hope to use his content in the future.
Mm-hmm. And please visit their respective sites, their portfolios, I just checked them out, 2 minutes ago, and I was fucking flabbergasted. They're great, the both of them. So please check them out, if you're into just viewing for pleasure, weird, or if you want someone to help you out with some concept work for your own projects, check them out and, reach out to them. How do you guys think that was good, guys?
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, awesome. So, because we're just doing 2 chapters this episode, we're going to shake up the order of things. So our next segment, we're just going to jump right in. We're just going to do it. We're going right for best meme of the week. George, take it away.
Okay, and this week we have user clean_sparks, who I think has also given us one of our questions of the week. And the title is It Never Gets Old, and just check that out in the description if you don't mind spoilers. Although this isn't too spoilery.
Yeah, this isn't a spoiler. You could talk about it, George. Go ahead.
Do it, George.
Do it. From Parks and Rec when he walks in and all the nerds and they love him. And the captain is Logan, and you can never have too many knives.
You can never have too many knives.
Oh, it is a good quote. It's a good quote.
It was good.
So I like it. Clean Sparks for that sensible chuckle. That was good.
That was a good one. All right, so going on to our first chapter read through, and today it will be questions. So we come upon Glocta, and he is having his usual delicious breakfast, porridge and honey. Right, Harrison?
Better than money.
Anything better than...
Everything's better with porridge and honey.
And practical Severard is there, and he tells him that he needs to go to the Tower Chains and investigate with what's happened with Baez and Company's sleeping quarters, because apparently there was a bit of a hubbaloo over there, and he's like, "Can
A
I have
what?
a hubbaloo?"
Jeff, may I kindly ask, what the fuck is that?
Don't know. Think I read it from a children's book one time, and it's stuck in my head now. It's stuck in my head.
All right, we'll
Sorry,
start
guys.
using it from now on. Hubbabaloo.
Hubbabaloo.
Anytime high art is used, we're gonna say, "Man, that was a big hubbabaloo."
So several reports on after he gives him a very bare bones report of like, something happened, I don't know, and Glock is like, what? And he's like, well, I don't know, something happened sometime somewhere, blah blah blah. Glock is just pissed, and then he reports on their following of Logan while he was gallivanting around the Agriant, which pretty much amounts to nothing, although Severard did note that he talked to Artie and offered to bring her in for questioning. And Glockta was immediate in his refusal of this idea, which I thought was him being sentimental and protective of Artie, right, guys? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's like she's the only person that's talked to him and treated him like a human being in 7 years, so it makes sense. He doesn't want to torture her.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, he has this line where he says that she's the sister of his old friend. He used to be a friend, and Severod's like, used to be. Glockta kind of blows him off. I'm pretty sure Glockta just says that as an excuse to be like, no, he used to be an old friend. Let's not bother her. But really, he's just like, I like Artie. I'm not gonna go after her. She's fine.
But he can't let that show. So
yeah, he doesn't want Severod catching on to that.
Right. And I think what was indicative of it was that after she says, that's the one, you know her? He's like, she asked me how I was. I remember. Like one of the few people, we're talking few people that actually asked Glockta how's he doing. He's
exactly.
Like, not going to touch her. No. I don't care if she assassinated the king. We're not touching her.
Yeah.
So I like that. So after, he tells Severard, forget it. It ain't happening. They kind of talk a little bit about how they are not going to be, I guess you could say, investigating or cleaning up regarding the investigation into the Mercers. And, Severard's like, fuck, man, could have got some money out of that. And Glock's like, yeah, well, orders is orders.
Well, I'm pretty sure Severard was able to buy that big ass house on the docks.
I know.
Right?
Yeah. Just from
with that
Ruse.
money.
Yeah, just from Ruse alone.
He's pretty safe, pretty savvy, isn't he, with his money, Severard?
He's good. Yeah. He's an investor type. He's we talked about how we wouldn't want some who did we talk about before who we didn't want them handling our money? Oh, the Shenka. That's right. Okay. We want Shenka handling our money. But Severard, he's the man. I give Severard my money.
Yeah, well, I mean, he might pocket some for himself, but you know what? He deserves it, right?
That's expected, right?
Yeah, it's expected,
isn't it?
Yeah, but so then here is when Glockta kind of is like, we see a bit of I don't know if it's individualism or just the desire to constantly seek out the truth, but he tells Severard to discreetly, quote unquote, look into Valent and Balk against the orders of Salt. And it's serious because he repeats it to Severard. You need to be discreet. Keep it on the low, or else we're fucked.
Yeah, he kind of is. It's just the first time we kind of see him break away from following orders to the letter. He's actually. I mean, he went after the Mercers when he shouldn't have, right? So it's not inconsistent, but it's the first time in the story that we see him directly going against something that Salt told him not to do.
Right. Because we go ahead, George.
I think this is the first time as well we see that Salt's pretty much punished Glockta for doing exactly what he was been told to do. He investigates the Mercers, does the whole song and dance in the open council, and then he just goes, "Oh no, don't worry about it. Goyle's taking it from here. You don't get any of the rewards. You go and watch Baez or so-called Baez." So, and I like how that bleeds through as well. Glockta's little tirade to Severard about certain not being very vague and some damage, some of this. That's very reminiscent of his last conversation with Salt. So it's a shit rolls downhill situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does the same thing that Salt says to him, right? That's kind of what you mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he does. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about it as punishment for Glockta, like what you just said. I thought of it as, well, since we removed Kaline and Goyle's coming in to take over as superior of Adjua, that, the superior, I guess you could say, always gets the spoils of war, or in this case, spoils of investigations. But it's interesting that you described it as punishment. I like that.
Well, not necessarily punishment, but like trying to keep Glockta down. I think Salt definitely sees Glockta as a potential rival.
Okay. I like that. I thought of it as like Salt always just keeping the carrot on the stick out of Glockta's reach. But
yeah, that could be another interpretation.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. Honestly,
look at Harrison playing peacemaker. I like this.
Mr. Mediator.
He's the contrarian. Now he's moved on up. He's immature.
Yeah. You see, I'm moved beyond my previous personality.
Oh, George, he's growing before our eyes.
He is kind of a threat. He knows what Glockter's capable of. He knows Glockter's ambitious, and that he's going to get the truth no matter what. But at the same time, he needs to use him. So he's like, okay. And honestly, this Baez business is important.
It is. Honestly, yeah, go ahead, Harrison.
I was just gonna say, now the Mercer business is concluded. The banks, no, we can't go for the banks. It's too big. This is more important in the immediate. I don't think Salt realizes how big it is either, and so he's telling Glockter to go on there, because he is leading him towards a place, and he doesn't want him being powerful. But what's the point of getting into the banks? That's a huge different mess. We have one mess in front of us. Let's deal with that right now.
I like that. I also I don't know if you guys remember one of the things when like a couple episodes back when Glockta was talking to Salt about Kaline being the potential traitor. He was like, you gotta tread carefully here because Kaline's from a powerful family. Glockta is a nobleman. He's probably from a powerful family too, even though we don't know much except that his mother trains dogs. And so maybe Salt is very aware of the hierarchy of the noble families, so maybe doesn't want to necessarily insult, I guess you could say, family names, but at the same time, I think he's appreciative of Glockta's like his doggedness, like his perseverance in like investigating. So he chooses him to investigate Baez because he's like, if anybody's gonna get the truth, or at least be able to show that Baez is a fraud, it'll be Glockta, right? That's what I was kind of like thinking along those lines of.
Okay, yeah. I like that interpretation, Jeff.
Oh, thank you, Georgie.
I think so as well.
George. I'm going to say George, not Georgie, because you're a grown man. You are a grown man.
You can call me Georgie if you want, baby.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's getting spicy up here.
That's the vodka talking.
Well, it's the bourbon talking for me.
So,
and for anyone asking, I'm drinking the Redwood Empire. Harrison, George, what exactly are you drinking?
The only non-Russian vodka that I could find.
Oh, right. Hashtag we stand with Ukraine. Got it.
I'm drinking the Bullet rye whiskey.
Ooh, going with the rye. Harrison, I dig it. All right. And you were going to say something before I piped in.
Oh, no, I was just going to continue on. But no, I'm glad you asked that question. But I was just going to move on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so then moving on. Go ahead. You want to take this, Harrison?
Sure. So Glockta is basically, he's going to go up to investigate what's going on with this explosion that was heard up at the top of the Tower of Chains. And he's walking up these stairs, and he's just taking a break, and he's thinking about all the shit that's been going on, like how he used to be able to run up it no problem whenever he was like Giselle. I mean, think about Giselle ran up there no problem earlier. Well, he was tired.
Not no problem.
No problem. But now he is. Now it is no problem because he's getting better, right? So,
right.
But Glockter's just fucking sits down and takes a break, and he's like, "Fuck me." He's like, "This is terrible."
Honestly, I wrote this down as Glockta having a near breakdown. Like he was like, "Fuck this." Honestly, Honestly, they need to install like chairs with pulleys or something for the disabled on for
Maybe
stairs.
some kind of lift that
Accessibility
can
or
lift people up,
Jesus.
and
Something
then
tells me the union is not wheelchair friendly.
They're not.
maybe some inventor in the future could create some kind of contraption that'll lift people up easier, even if it's on the outside.
Whoa,
Only if that was
Harrison.
something that was plausible.
Oh, Harrison, you're getting feisty here. I like this.
Subtle foreshadowing there. It's good.
Subtle wink, wink.
Yeah. Not as
But yeah,
subtle as a brick.
as a brick. Yeah.
But
I just squeaked there.
Glockner has this moment where we actually kind of get a little bit of look into why he does what he does. He's like, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? He's like, well, what's the alternative? Go back to mother and just sit there.
Yeah.
He wants something to do. Glockner wants to stay busy. I mean, a lot of people, I think everybody wants to stay busy, whether we actually want to admit it or not. If we all work to be lazy. At the same time, we all want to be working.
Right. You want to be useful. We want to contribute. This is I totally I see this like Glock does. How do I explain this? The frustration, I don't want to say bitterness or resentment, but I mean it's close to it. But like, just why bother? But then it's like, but then what else would I do? I've seen it in like, especially my parents, especially my father. As a deaf person. He growing up, he was very resentful of society, especially growing up in Portugal with a fascist dictator. That was fun. He can always just take an easy way out, but for all his, you could say, traits, the man was like determined. He's like, no, I'm gonna be useful in a society. So I can see why Glockta thinks the way he, thought, and I think it's a testament to Joe's writing here, because I remember reading, I can't remember if it was Reddit or a Discord about the first law, and they thought that there seemed to be a disconnect between how disability is represented or written in works, but I kind of like, as a person that was like right there at the front row seat, if not the, I'm not on stage, but I'm in the front row seat, I see it. I think Joe did a good job portraying like the inner workings of someone like Glockta.
Definitely, and it definitely comes through with his inner monologue. He would never admit any of these things out loud or to anyone, but it's all his own personal way of torturing himself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't have the kind of experience that Jeff has with disabilities and such. But I can't imagine. I always hear, right, that they want to be treated like normal people. No one wants to be babied because they they can't hear, or they're mute, or whatever it might be. No one wants to be treated differently. Everyone wants to be considered a person. Everyone wants to be equal. So
like, acknowledge the reality of the situation, but don't infantilize them.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the dilemma. Glockta is just like, I could literally just lay in bed and not do this, or I can nearly shit myself in the middle of a stairwell. And he's like, I'm gonna take that risk, and I think that's commendable. And then he finally gets to the top of the stairs, right? And he's just. The guardsman? He's just like, oh, I'm glad you're here, Inquisitor. You gotta see it. It's just crazy in there.
Just open the fucking door.
He's just, open the fucking door, man. Get the fuck out. Get out of my face. And then I love it. He's just like, he jumped up and he's like, all right. He straightens his back. He's just like, I'm composed. I like it. He swept imperiously past the guard.
Yeah. I like this as another example of Glockta treating somebody like shit who's just trying to do their job.
Right. He's trying to give not Logan. He's trying to give Glockta the 411, and Glockta's like, "Shut the fuck up. That's it. I'm about to collapse. I need you to get the fuck out of my face." And then, excuse me. And then he walks past, and he's just baffled by the level of destruction in the room, because. Think about it. His perception, they're way up above the ground. Glockta knows how far up above the ground they are because he counts all these stairs, and he just sees a hole in the wall. He's like, what? He's like, why is there a hole in the wall? And it's a giant hole. It isn't just a.
Well, yeah, it's the walls. He states the walls are 4 feet thick.
Yeah, that's
Like,
insane.
and it's
That's insane.
completely blown out.
And that is an incredible amount of destruction.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I like how he notices that in the midst of this wreckage, there was a tall ornamental jar, strangely pristine, because Logan he was holding it when he wanted to piss, and he was like, I'm just gonna set this down right here." after listen, we gotta give credit to Glockta keeping his composure here. We just like the pain he's feeling, because we must have imagined how high up the tower chains is. You know, we just gotta give credit to that. And then for him to be able to still analyze, like, you know, go straight up CSI on this scene. We gotta commend him on his composure, right?
Yeah.
And he sees Malchus quiet, and the first thing he thinks is, no, this guy's definitely a fraud. Straight away.
Which is funny because like he says it through this entire chapter. He's like, this guy's a fraud. This guy's a fraud. He's like, you expect me to believe that? Blah 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 blah. Ironically, they're being truthful with him the whole time.
Yeah, everything's 100% true.
Yeah,
He's just like,
kinda,
no, of course not. That's not possible.
Yeah, and I think that what that is the preconceptions that people have, right? If you see an apprentice, you think, all right, maybe he's learning, but he has to be like an air of composure, of knowledge. And we have Kwai, who's like, oh God, I don't even know what happened here, guys. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, this fucking goofball.
This is one of those few chapters where, like, I didn't even take that many notes because I'm just going to have the book open to actually look at each scene, because every scene has these little moments. Like, Malchus is trying to talk to him about, like, what happened. And the whole time, Glock's basically thinking, he's like, if this guy is Magus' apprentice, then I am the Emperor of Gurkle. Yeah. And then Malchus starts talking to him, and he's like, in his head, Glock's like, kneel before me. I am the great Emperor of Gurkle. Because he just doesn't believe anything Malchus says.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
And that's probably it comes down to personalities too, right? And how they conflict with what we I don't want to say our biases or anything, but like, you know, he's stammering, right? Kwai is just stammering. He's like, oh yes, I'm sorry, I'm Malchus Kwai.
Yeah.
And Glock is like, oh God.
like I was saying in the previous episode, like, there's no reason why this would be real anyway. You know, to a logical, reasonable person, there's no way that this could be real. Boyaz can't have lived 1,000 years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would have, if it was me going up there, I would have been, this guy's definitely a fraud, you know, because how the fuck is this possible?
Right.
And like you said, it's very funny to see that, you know, because we know it's true. But Glockta still just refuses to believe it. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he really does. And then he even like asks him pointed questions where he's like, Malchus, Kwai, you are from the old empire? And then here he's like, why yes, the young man brightened. And he's like, well, do you know my, and then he's like, shut up. Nope, I don't know. He's like, were you here last night? Like, here I think should have been an indication to Glockta that there might be some truth in the matter, because he brightened slightly at that. Like there was
like an
obvious,
honest reaction.
An honest reaction, but Glockta kind of like dismisses it. And then he just starts, you know, questioning him pointedly about the events of last night, which is like, he's a great detective in this sense, because he's like, oh, okay, let's get to the meat at you know the fact of the matter, and but he didn't miss that. I would say he did miss that.
To be honest, I think Glockta isn't even an amazing detective. I think that he is just good with he knows how to evaluate people, and the weakness is that he has a tendency. And he actually gets better at it as he goes through the series. He has a tendency to have like you guys said, a precognition or whatever.
Preconceived notion.
Yeah, preconceived notion. Thank you. That certain people are who they are because of the way they look and the way they do. And normally that works. But when we come to this scene with the Magi, it doesn't work. And so I don't think I don't think Glockta is an amazing detective. I just think he knows people. He knows how people work and everything. He just so happens to, his preconception is completely inaccurate here, because it's just it's magic, you know, it's beyond his comprehension at this point.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I would argue that what you just said is integral to being a good detective, to be able to know how people work.
That's a good point, Jeff. That's a good point.
Oh, look at me being an asshole.
What?
Look at me being an asshole. I'm sorry. No,
So
but Harrison, what you said is correct, though. I do, and yeah, I guess we'll go on to this later. But he just basically thinks Kwai is the worst con artist, basically, right? He's just the
Yeah.
absolute worst.
He's like, come on, dude.
He's like, can this really make the arch elector nervous? Like, get the fuck out of here. And then he asks him, go ahead, Harrison, I heard you.
I was just gonna say, then Malicus kind of points out that Logan was there. He knew what happened, and Logan walks up, and Glocta, again, like you said, Glocta's good. Like he understands people to a certain degree. He sees Logan, and he's like, this guy is dangerous. He doesn't say everything he has to say. He basically speaks only when necessary. You know, he says the very minimal. He thinks he's a little. You know, he knows what he's doing.
Right. He looks stupid, but isn't stupid.
Right.
Right. Can I just point out real quick what I thought was hilarious? He tells Kwai, can you please get your northern companion, who was actually a witness? And then Kwai's like, yeah, sure. And then he goes. And then Glocta takes the opportunity to do the thing like you see in movies where Glocta he like turns to the side and he's like, oh, because he's still in pain. Don't forget, he's still in pain. He's just like, oh God.
Yeah.
He's just like, Jesus Christ. And then he's kind of like, as a spasm is passing, he's like, you know, looking at the wall. He's like, holy shit. This wall's still 4 feet thick up here. It's insane. And he's like, you know, it could have been either a catapult, but no one's seen a catapult, or any workman, a group of workmen going for a whole week taking this apart, or blasting powder. Apparently, he heard from the southern reaches of Gurkul, right? Something like that. So, yeah, like he's. I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was funny. He's just like, yeah, can you get him? Thank you, please. Oh, fuck, my knees.
Yeah, and that would definitely do really well on screen.
Oh, it was so good on screen. So good. And then, yeah, to Harrison, to your point, that he correctly identifies that Logan is more complicated than he puts forth. Right? And then, and then Logan not at this point. At this point, then Glocta starts getting a little confused because Logan's being honest, but Glocta doesn't believe it. But he's not. How do I say this? He's not giving him much, right?
Yeah, well, they have this exchange, right? And Logan's like, it was a woman, you know. I saw that much, and he's like, a woman, really?
Yeah.
And then
he's like, whatever.
He's like, can you tell me anything else? Can we narrow a search to half the population? You know, it's like Glocta is trying to take him seriously, but he's like also like, okay, this guy is also bullshitting me, even though he's not.
Right, and then Logan admits to like being able to speak to spirits, and then he's like, oh boy, and he's like, and then Glocta switches tact real quick. He's like, so you come from Bethod, and then with no hesitation, Logan's like, yeah, you could say that, and Glocta's now like, what the fuck? Yeah. He's bewildered by his very frank admissions, where he's like, yeah, I was once his champion. And then he's like, I fought 10 duels for him. He's like, did you win? He's like, yeah, I was lucky. I'm alive. And he's like, he's so confused. He was like, a moment ago, he teetered on the brink of making sense of it all. But then that moment slipped away and things made less sense than ever, you know?
Yeah, I love that line too, how he was like, do you know magic? And he's like, well, no. Yeah. He's like, well, I do speak to spirits as an afterthought. And he was like, oh, of fucking course, why not?
Of course. Oh, yeah, why not?
And then
we get Baez enter stage left.
Stage left, I love that.
And I love how Glocta immediately goes, no, this doesn't look anything like that statue, you know?
I could find 20 guys that look better.
Well, he says like there's 20 bald men. He's like, he's bald. He's like, what the fuck ever. I'm like, it could be any bald guy.
And he's like, it was like, if I took a razor to Arch Lecter's salt, I could do better.
Yeah.
So we have this nice back and forth between Glocta and Baez now, you know? We see Glocta asking him questions, none too pointedly, but a little pointedly. Nothing enough to be too obvious. And then what else? We see that how was the damage caused, and then Bias is just being very like he's being very vague. He's being very vague in like how this damage was how the damage was caused, and then he's like, well, I don't do tricks. I'm not just magician that shows up at your daughter's birthday party.
Bias starts getting annoyed by Galactus' questions. He's like, are you fucking serious, bro? He's like, I built all this shit around you, and you're gonna question me? He's got a little bit of patience, but he slowly starts losing it.
Right, and then he's like, touchy.
Yeah, I love the line where he's like, perhaps you climbed up the latrine chute, and it's like, Northman looked deeply troubled by that suggestion.
Logan. He's like, what? He's like, my God. He's like, I knew those things are bad.
Yeah. He's like, I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all.
And it's one of many times I wish we had like the alternate perspective.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see like Logan's perspective.
Yeah,
on
Logan's like, is that possible?
Yeah. Like, what? Someone could climb up that chute? Oh my God.
I can imagine him just like when Baez starts to get annoyed and he starts feeling the tugging in the guts. He's just looking at Glock, like shaking his head like, no, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Harrison.
I was just gonna say that, like, I really like this part right here, right? Because we know that what Baez is doing is he's using his will. He's using high art right here. He's using his will to basically try to shut Glockta down. He's tired of him. He wants him to be intimidated and to leave. Glockta even feels this pressure to like believe him, just be done with it, get out of there. But Galacta's will is so strong that it actually ends up countering Baez's, and he suddenly basically just locks it down and says, "No, I don't think so." And Baez respects that because he realizes that Galacta. At first, he was kind of like, okay, here's the Inquisitor, blah, 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 I'll play with your game. Galacta started questioning him. Then Baez got upset because he's like, how dare you question me? So he starts trying to shut him down. Galacta doesn't get shut down. And then he's like, this Inquisitor is a little bit more than meets the eye. I like this Inquisitor. He's got a strong will, and he asks good questions. And Baez's demeanor changes immediately. As soon as he feels Galacta push back, which probably nobody does, he goes, oh, I respect this guy. And he's like, we should talk in the future.
Yeah, I really do like it because you can see from the perspective like which we could have, what we didn't have from like Calder or Karib was from he like Glockta's on the receiving end of this, like you just said, Harrison, and he goes like I fear I must risk your annoyance. It has occurred to me that you might not in fact be Baez, the first of the Magi. And it's like, indeed. The old man's bushy eyebrows drew together, and then he starts going on. I was like, yeah, I must at least entertain the possibility. And then here's like a tense stillness has settled on the room. And then he's like, and then when he says like a fraud, and then Kwai lowers his head. He's like, oh, fuck this, I'm backing away. Like everyone's like, oh, we know what's gonna happen. But then he feels what's going on. Like Glockta can feel, like it's something that you can't. It's ineffable. There's no word. You can't really put into words, but it's like there's something in the air that's just closing in on you. And Glockta's like, oh, maybe it's true. Maybe he could be the Magi. Maybe.
Goes, nah.
No, nah. This motherfucker's bullshit. I don't know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. It's probably just because I walked up 20 flights of stairs. But,
I think that's a good point as well. Like, short of actually injuring Glockta with his magic, Baez can't really make him feel any worse pain than he already feels.
Right. Just like just an overwhelming pressure, like the walls are closing in. That's just basically it, right?
Yeah. Well, it does say like there is a bit more. Like I think he starts to get a lot more powerful. Like he starts to, it says here, felt like a great weight driving from beneath his body, threatening to crush him to his knees. And I think, as Baez is getting angrier and angrier, and his magic is getting stronger and stronger, and then he realizes that he can't keep doing this without killing him.
Right.
Well, I think that's a good point, George. I didn't think about that. I think that Baez was pressuring his will, and then he could feel Galacta's will, maybe not overpowering Baez's because it's obviously high art, but he realized like, well, this guy's not gonna back down. Like Jesus,
Yeah.
like okay, all
Right.
right,
Yeah.
that's respectable. Because
Yeah.
even everybody else always bowed back down. I don't think, to be honest, not even to spoil that much. There's only one other character the entire series that does this, and I can't say her name, but yeah,
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
but
Right.
there's only one other character that does this, and he has the same reaction. He's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, fuck you," and then he's like, "I respect that," because
Mhm.
nobody does that.
Right. Yeah, he does. He says your candor at least is quite refreshing. You know, like he Glocta is not the kind of person to beat around the bush, to kind of just be like, oh yeah, okay, so you're the first Magi, sure, why don't you just hang out in these rooms while we just get affairs in order. Glocta will just be straight up, I don't know if you're really the first of the Magi. And I imagine that's what went on with Salt, Morovia, and Hoff when Baez and company went into that anteroom from the previous episode.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think so far everyone sort of bowed down and scraped to him, even before Byers himself turned up. You know,
Mhm. Yeah,
yours,
but
yours Sulfur. All he has to do is get that sheaf of documents out, and and Hoff is like, "Oh, okay, yeah, so
right. I don't know if they bowed down, but they had to follow. I guess you could say what's the word? Traditional traditional procedure.
Mhm.
But you can just tell like, oh, they're not believing him. They're gonna try to discredit him, but they're gonna butter him up, but behind his back try to get him take him down from his little totem pole spot on the totem pole. But Glockta at least is very forthright with it, and I think Baez really appreciates it, and I think Glockta does appreciate that Baez and Glockta have one thing in common, which is can we get a new apartment or something, a place with fewer steps. They play hell on my knees.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's how it ends. Yeah, he
Hmm.
basically is like, "Hey, we should talk sometime, right?"
Yeah, absolutely. And then
And then
well,
he's
he does say that. You're right. He does. And then Glockta kind of looks at them, and he's just like the bald old man, his face a blank wall. The lanky youth is anxious. The Northman is
Logan's
still frowning towards the latrine door.
but yeah, Logan cannot get over that. He's like, "Oh my god,
I knew it."
she came from there. I swear, that's where she came from."
Can we just point out this is kind of a callback to the Theatrical Outfitters, where Baez is basically insinuating that Logan's a method actor. He's like, he's after the new fashion of acting, or he falls completely into his role. If this is true, Logan's a method actor because he's just staring at the latrine door like this ain't right. There's no way. This is an affront to humanity.
Oh, I like that callback. That's good.
There you go. See, I'm trying to tie it in, tie it all together. I'm trying.
So, should we move on to the ratings?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
we shall, because we're consistent now. We're not forgetting the ratings. Let's do it.
You almost did, didn't you, Jeff?
No. I was waiting. I was literally reaching for my bourbon, and I was like, all right, how do I bring it to the ratings? So, thank you, George, for taking that load off my shoulders.
No worries.
George, go ahead, man.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon I give this one a 7 out of 9 fingers. It's very funny. You get a lot of character interaction. I think this is the first time Glock has met any of the other main characters, except for Giselle, obviously.
And West.
And West. You get my point. Like, he's meeting Baez and Logan and all that.
Yeah.
And I do like these interactions that we get that really give us some character introspection.
I like it. 7 out of 9. I like it. Harrison, you?
I'm gonna agree with George. 7 out of 9 for me as well, because for the same reasons he said, the character interactions are great, and it's just an entertaining chapter. There's quite a bit of subtext in here between Baez and Glockta and Logan. Less so with Malachus because he's just not there, but the way they're speaking to each other is, I think, honestly, is fairly realistic given their situation, where they're at, and who they are. I really like it.
I like that. It's good. So you gave it a 7 out of 9, and George gave it a 7 out of 9. Ah, fuck. Sorry to do this, guys. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to give it I have to give it a 7 out of 9 as well.
Oh!
Whoa! Look at that. Look at that. And I'm trying to I was very muted because I didn't want to clip the microphone. But I agree. Yeah, I love that this is the first time we see Glock interacting with our other, well, not our other POVs because it's just Logan, but the core group, I guess we could say, right? And
Right.
yeah, it there's, I like the insights of Glockta being sentimental in terms of like towards Artie. We see that a glimpse of that Glockta has a soft spot. We see Glockta's determination to always investigate, whether it's into Valent and Balk, sending Severard to be discreet. Of course, discreet is what I'm always about. All right. Terrible accent there. Sorry. Didn't even practice that one. And here we see Glockta's his initial perceptions of Kwai, Logan, and Baez. And honestly, they're kind of like on point. Like, Kwai seems inept, even though, like, if you guys have been paying attention to our recent social media blast, like Harrison, you are dogged in your pursuit into making Kwai to seem like a stupid person. And me and George are trying to defend him. But Logan, Logan's a complicated Northman. He's not your average barbarian. Baez, there's something behind it. And Glockta's his investigative techniques. This is a good chapter. I really do like it, right?
Yeah.
I like it. The trifecta again. It's
The
good.
trifecta. I like it. We got to have a trifecta every once in a while. We can't, we can't overuse it, but we can't let it be forgotten. Right?
Awesome.
I'd agree more, Jeff.
Thank you. Next segment. Harrison, you want to take this to relay it to Georgie, or?
Yeah. So the next question is from Jeff. George should actually be doing this fully, but George has
Right.
done a lot of research on this question. All right.
No, right. So yeah, we should. This is our question of the week, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do our question of the week, and this is Smoke Blind 666, who asks us, "What do the Northmen wipe their arse on after shitting while out in the wild, covered in snow?" And this, let me tell you, sent me down a rabbit hole of scatological goodness.
Yeah.
Because apparently this is a real thing, scatology and the psychology behind toilet behaviors to keep it PG. It's a real study. You can actually get a degree in this stuff. You can become the shit professor.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Get the fuck
Absolutely.
outta here.
You can do that. And it's just an absolutely fascinating thing. But it really does come down to, these people out in the wild, they're just going to be using leaves, aren't they?
Yeah, George, that was my thing about this question. I was like, well, I was in Boy Scouts, and it's like, yeah, just use leaves.
Yeah.
But George, go ahead.
I still like my theory of that Black Dow just uses one shitty rag. Just uses
He uses it.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's like, fucking flatheads.
Too many flatheads around.
Yeah, he's like, too many fucking flatheads around.
I haven't got time for that.
Yeah, I just gotta take a shit by the river.
Although that now I have to say this, right? I've always wondered too. We've always thought about it. What if you were to grab a poison leaf or poison oak leaf and fucking wipe your ass with it? You're like, ah, shit. This is why knowledge of plants is important. This is why Malachus sucks ass.
Listen, we will
it all
not
comes around to Malachus being shit because Malachus would wipe his ass in the forest and fucking get poison ivy or poison oak fucking rash on his asshole because he's I don't know what a plant is. Like, fucking hell, man.
God damn it, Harrison. Me and George will not stand for you besmirching the good name of Malachus Kwai from the old empire.
Name is good qualities other than being a nice guy.
Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's my fucking thought.
He's a nice man, and that matters. Listen, all I'm going to say is, as a former Boy Scout, yeah, they taught us to just look at the leaves and use them appropriately. Oh, these are poisonous. These are not. Put them on your taint, clean them, use it to clean it up. Like, this is a very confusing question for me, to be honest. I was like, why are we answering this?
Is that just like a standard thing in the Boy Scouts? Then they teach you to wipe your ass with leaves.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. There isn't a badge for it.
Demonstrate.
We don't get to sell cookies based off our ability to answer that question. But I'm just saying, like it's kind of obvious. Like what else? You're
I
not
know,
gonna use bark. You're not gonna use bark from a tree.
But I find it interesting that we haven't had anything like that, any descriptions like that, because obviously Logan's fucking afraid of the toilet, and he's the only one that talks about. He's the only person that had
terrified.
any kind of interaction with that kind of thing.
That's true. That's
He
true.
doesn't. I reckon they do it like the Roman way. They've got like the sponge on the stick.
Yeah, George,
everyone
tell us
fucking
more
shares.
about that, please. That frightened the shit out of me when you told me about it the other day.
So when I was going on my deep dive, I found that Romans used to have public toilets where everyone would share a sponge on a stick in order to do the deed. So that's just lovely. It's fantastic. Thanks for making me read that, Smoke Blind 666.
Thank you, Smoke Blind. Jesus Christ.
Thanks,
But
Smoke Blind.
can we just say we have to imagine, right? That they at least must have rinsed that shit stick, right?
Yeah, but that made it worse because then you've just got like a bowl full of water, like shitty water.
Right. It's just no. You rinse it, you dump it out.
Where
I don't know.
it raises the question, right? When you go sit in a toilet after somebody, do you like it to be cold or do you like it to be warm? You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm a cold guy. I'm a cold guy.
Yeah, I'm a cold guy as well.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't want a warm sponge.
No, okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
George is a cold. Okay, all right, cold. Because if it's warm, you just know, like, oh no, I'm gonna die in 5 days. Oh. So thank you again, Smoke Blind. We appreciate that. Reddit user Smoke Blind. Wait,
And,
Smoke Blind
join
666.
us next week for our next question of the week, which is probably equally disgusting knowing you guys, you filthy bastards.
But we love it. We love you. Keep them coming.
Keep it coming. Keep it
Give
coming.
us the nasty shit.
I need it. All right. So then now let's move on to our second chapter read through, which is also our final chapter read through for this episode, and it is nobility. Does anyone want to take this, or should I go through it?
George, go for it.
George, go for it.
So we start out with Giselle just absolutely admiring himself in the mirror. And I love how there's like 2.5 pages of this.
Yeah, right.
It's just like, he's, oh, that's a great jaw. And he just literally says to himself, aren't you a handsome bastard?
His amazing chin.
Yeah. And it's just driving home the point that this guy is just vain and arrogant.
Right. He's literally comparing his chin against the chins of former kings. Think about it.
And he does say that he's got all the looks in his family as well.
Yeah, his brothers are jealous and all that. Okay. So but what he's doing, what Giselle's basically doing is he's shaving, he's getting ready for the first day of the contest, right?
Yes. He's amping himself up.
And he's
Yeah.
looking, he has to look his best. He has to. Because he's, all the people are going to come out to see him because he's Giselle Dan Luther. Harrison, you cue?
Captain Luther,
You're my man.
you're my man.
Oh my man. So he goes, he's about to eat some breakfast. He's about to, he's still psyching himself up, and then he just sees a little something on the floor by the door. He's like, what the hell? And it's a note that was slid under the door, and it says, meet me tonight at the statue of Herod the Great near the Four Corners A. And he's like, fuck, this is already, right? And he's nervous but excited at the same time. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, shit. What can I, you can only think of one A because A, Giselle's stupid, but what else? How many other people than A are there?
I don't think anybody's been mentioned.
Yeah, right. No one. So now he knows it's her, and it's no mistake.
Yeah, and obviously, Wes has just warned him off, or a few chapters ago, he's warned him off very violently. So, yeah. And
What do you
obviously,
guys?
sorry.
No, I was just saying, what do you guys think? Go ahead, continue, George.
I think I like how he does go to tear it up and just forget about it, and then he's like, maybe.
Mm,
Right, he's trying to focus on the contest, you know.
right, but he can't. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting just to kind of see, and through this whole chapter, Giselle starts having these characteristics that he hasn't had before. You know, he starts thinking about how his friend would think of him. He didn't give a fuck about what Wes thought before, but he cares a little bit. He cares more than you think he would. He cares not just because he's afraid of Wes, but because he actually cares about what he thinks. He
That's
also later
true.
on, he stands up for West, which we were like, what the hell? What is he doing that for?
Oh yeah, we'll cover that for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he has a couple things here. You know, we've seen his growth so far. You know, we've seen a little bit of change already, but here we actually get to see that in practice. He does it on
Mm-hmm.
multiple occasions. He's kind of a different person than he was at the beginning.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, but so, yeah. Excuse me, sorry, guy, about that. Had a snail in my throat, but yeah, I see what you're saying, Harrison. Yeah, uh, it's like we see the changes. It's minute, but they're there, right?
I didn't think about that. That's a very good point, Harrison.
Yeah, very minute. Um, so like, all right, so he slips the note into his pocket, like you said, and then he makes his way to the waiting area. I guess you could say it's in an enclosure before they go onto the field for the contest, because today's the first day, right? And his nerves, they're just palpable at this point. And then while he's waiting along with Weston Varuz, he finally lays eyes on Bremer Dan Ghost. And Bremer Dan Gorst definitely has a different build compared to the rest of the competition. Giselle's like, looks more like a seventh than a warrior, right? Doesn't he say that? Something like that?
He says he would have taken him for a servant if he didn't have the swords in his hand.
Right. A pair of steels dangling loosely from one hand, which makes you think, oh, Gorst is a big boy. He
Yeah.
he ain't
Well, he
your average.
the Union's kind of ideal status style look, is kind of a thin, stringy young man who is, he's got a beautiful face. He's kind of honestly kind of like nowadays is kind of teen ideal, a
Yeah,
skinny
Abercrombie and
fit.
Fitch and all that shit.
Yeah, and then the women are supposed to be pale, thin creatures. to
Which
quote
was
what
like
Giselle
late '90s models, I would say, late '90s, early
said. Right.
2000s. Yeah. You know,
They're
before your
they're
time. Before your time.
yeah. So they have a certain style, and Bermudan Gorse basically flies in the face of the classic, teeny bopper look that the Union admires in their young men.
Hmm. I like that. Okay, yeah. And is this? Would you? uh I forget who's more familiar with the Renaissance. I think it's George. Would you say that it's fair to say like this was that ideal of the quintessential man or woman in that era? Is that accurate to hear? Like
I think that's definitely
thin,
accurate. We're talking about
yeah.
it's at a
Okay.
time where you want to show off your wealth by basically showing that you don't have to work. So
Okay. Yeah.
not being muscular and being very like languid and laid back is a
Mm-hmm.
status symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Okay.
does make sense.
Is that a Victorian age kind of thing, or is that a little bit prior?
I mean, I think that's been like something with the nobility for at least 400, 500 years.
Oh shit. Okay, never mind. I'm silly.
So
Never
yeah,
mind.
like Renaissance time, pre-Renaissance, just before pre-Renaissance.
Just before. Okay. Alrighty.
Because this isn't a
And
time where people are, especially the upper classes, are expected to do a lot of fighting.
that's true.
Where
That
it
is
would
true.
make sense to have muscular people. But
Mhm.
we do get descriptions of that. The King's Own description that we get earlier. They're very well trained.
Mhm.
They're probably not lanky and thin.
That's true. Like
Right.
West is the ideal like soldier, right? In
Exactly.
terms of
In a way.
physicality, and he's
Mhm.
bigger than Giselle by quite a bit margin. He's a bigger. I don't think bigger looks taller. He's taller, but he's like wider. You know what I mean? Like he's got probably a bit more muscle mass. He may be slower,
Right.
but he's more muscle.
Mhm.
Right. And yeah, he came from England, so don't forget. So he has, I guess we could say northern blood. I mean, like, yeah, he's definitely a different build for sure. West. Let's not forget that.
Oh,
Because I mean,
100%.
just because the Union has quote unquote control of England for about 200 years prior to the setting of this book, doesn't mean that we can forget about genetic characteristics or anything.
Oh, exactly. I'm sure there's probably been sort of mixed breeding between like northern people and Union people, which would make sense as to why West is of a bigger build than others. Let's say. But then also we have
Right.
Jallenholm, who's a big man as well, and he seems to be Union,
Yeah.
good old Midland stock.
Right. And we see characters later on in the series, including Gorse, who are bigger Union men.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We also should note that Giselle, at this point, we kind of see the nerves creeping in, right? He's there in the enclosure with West, and he's getting nervous. West is pointing out who Gorst is, and then we hear a voice, and it's who else? None other than Lord Chamberlain Hoff, my namesake, and he's giving the king's address. He's taking all the credit for making sure that the contest goes ahead despite the war with the Northmen, right?
He has a very patriotic American speech about how no, our freedom will not be trampled. We stand the Union, the people.
Absolutely. You know what? I don't even think this is a very specific to like America. This is a very jingoistic. Like any nation will have this kind of address in times of war, in times of turmoil, when they have an established an enemy, the other, where they can finally set aside the internal grievances and focus their what's the word? Their
just focus their
focus their internalized aggression onto like an actual enemy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then so he gives this whole address, and Giselle's just kind of like freaking out. His mouth is getting dry. He can't even like answer questions properly. He's just like, oh fuck, oh god. And then the doors open, and they walk out onto the field, and it's just he's just like crazy. Like oh, there's so many people that are have like shown up to see the contest, right?
Yep. It's interesting here because, so I don't know about you guys, but I've been inside of a ring, and particularly a ring for fighting.
Oh, same here.
And I think, I don't know if I don't know if Joe's been in one or he's just had a lot of experience like researching it, but it's pretty accurate. You see all these people looking at you, cheering you on. And then when you actually start fighting, you kind of forget about everything else. You're just like trying to fight. That's all that matters.
Right? No, this is very true. How did you learn this, Harrison? How did you get this experience?
I did. I've done a couple of kickboxing matches in a ring match.
Oh, nice.
And so whenever you get in there, you're like, oh man, I'm kind of nervous because you're like putting on a show, right? But you're not actually. You look at this as a person. As soon as you throw a punch or the other guy throws a punch, it's like that's all that matters. You don't even hear anybody else. Like
right. It's
people
hard
around you may hear a random scream, but you have no idea who it's from. Your mom could be screaming, "Okay, kill him!" but you just hear, kill, or some some random shit. You don't realize like who is saying it. You're just hearing background noise because you're so focused on just trying to win or trying to survive. Sometimes in some cases,
that's very true.
All the nerves just disappear.
Yeah, no, Harrison, that's very true. I grew up on a wrestling team, middle school and high school, and yeah, I attest to that, and as well as training in mixed martial arts. Yeah, same thing. Everything kind of just mutes itself outside of like what's in front of you.
It almost sounds like it's not real, like it's one of those storybook instances, but honestly, it's something that happens.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like weird. A stereotype. Don't worry about it. Once it starts, you won't think about it, but it is true.
No, it's very true. It's very true. And then I'm the over anxious fucking asshole that like at points like I'll actually listen to the crowd. And I remember one time I was in middle school and I was wrestling, and then I heard somebody like a classmate say, "Go ahead, chicken legs," and I was like, "What? My legs? What? my legs aren't that skinny now. Come on." So So Joe again did a great job in at least researching, if not being familiar with this. Right, I would say.
Yeah.
He's in the enclosure. He's looking around at the crowd. He's trying not to puke. what does he see? Oh, he sees the royal family, right? He sees the royal family. Crown Prince Ladisla. Harrison, you're cute.
Captain Luther, you are my man. You're my man, Captain.
And we finally get introduced, excuse me, to a new character, Princess Therese from Talons.
Nothing good
Right?
comes from Tower.
No.
Nothing good comes from Talons. And she is, we can just tell it's evident, she is not about Crown Prince Ladislaw.
No.
She's like,
Yeah,
whatever, stupid.
Yeah.
she's a little disinterested. Yeah.
We could say that, that's for sure.
I love how
So then it
rude
comes-
Ladislau here is when he leans across the queen to talk to.
yeah. He just crosses over. It's like, all right. It's a little bit
Such a
rude. But we
guy.
do get a description, right? The difference, right? Ladisla is fabulously dressed, with an enormous smile, as everyone's there for him. But his younger brother, Reynaud, he could have hardly looked more different. Like, he's plain, he's sober, and he's worried. He's frowning worriedly at his father, who is semi-conscious. And then the queen is just straight up pretending like nothing exists. She's like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah,
It's
the
like-
king's crown is like sliding off his head. It's like
Yeah. Yeah. So you gotta like really do appreciate that, obviously there's levels to everything. There's levels to pressures of life, but there is pressure to being a royal family member. And this is intense, like to have like quote unquote your subjects looking like your subjects will look upon you with the expectation of, what would you say, respect of being like regal, and your father's just like you know.
It would
Like,
definitely make you feel like a bit of a fraud, wouldn't it?
yeah, exactly. And you gotta respect that. You gotta be understandable of that aspect of it.
You know, the first time I read it, I'm thinking like, man, I kind of wish I had Reynolds' perspective because I'm curious, like, what was going on with him.
That's true.
But now I read it, I'm thinking like, man, I'm curious what's going on with Reynolds, like in his head, what he's thinking. But I'm wondering what kind of vices he has, because he's probably not an amazing person either. He's probably got some kind of weird shit going on because of how Joe writes his characters.
Right. But he's great at it, though. So then it comes time for the first bout, and now it's Giselle against Curtis D'Ambroya, because we have to remember there was the subset from the main group of people who are participating in the contest. They went aside to, I guess, participate and being spectators, while a certain group of people went to compete for the first day. And Giselle was lucky enough to be, I guess you could say, competing the first day. And he's competing against this guy, Curtis D'Ambroya, who, if I'm looking at the page correctly, is a nobody. He's from Starkland. George, do you want to take this part, like describing where Curtis might be from?
So Starkland is basically the latest colony of the Union. So the same way that Angland was taken from the Northmen like 200 years ago, Starkland was taken from the petty kings in the old empire.
Really? I thought Starkland was an older.
I could be wrong.
Territory.
Harrison, please.
Harrison, that's historical.
Illuminate us.
Harrison.
So
Harrison.
there are a couple of
Harrison.
we really don't have that much information about Starkland. It could be a couple of different things. It could be the petty kings of the old empire, like they were ruling the region of Starkland with their own little kingdom. England came in and were taking it. It could be that Starkland was their own nation for a long time, and like 100 or so years ago, the Union came in and took it. Because Starkland was a part of the old empire at one point, and then maybe when the old empire receded as much as it has, Starkland kind of came up with their own nation, and they were independent. But then the Union came and took it because they had a lot of people, they had farmland, they needed the food. So it could be a couple different means. Either way, the Starkland has only been around with the Union for a shorter time period than England has. Hence why Lord Marshal Burr, even though he is a firm Union man, is more than likely from Starkland and has had experience fighting there, fighting rebels. Rebels, people who want Starkland to be free. ancestors of the original, perhaps kingdom, or perhaps they're just wanting to be free on their own away from the Union.
Okay,
Makes perfect
thank
sense.
you. Perfect. Good job. Adeptus Historical. Hitting us with the lore. Love it. Love it. So he's, he set up to fight Curtis D'Ambroya. And, again, like Harrison, what we were just talking about. At first, it's we're very aware of the crowd. We're very aware of everyone just their eyes, what they're saying, kill him, jab, jab. And then as soon as you start kind of getting into the motions, everything just kind of whittles away until you're focused on really what's in front of you. And then once we do that, it's basically the same thing as the sparring session with West for Giselle. Like he's incredibly nervous, but then the training takes over. And then, in all honesty, he basically handles Broya with ease, right?
Oh, absolutely. He just trounces him.
Mm-hmm.
And Broya is our character spot for the week, even though he doesn't say one single word, because I just feel so for him.
Wait, I thought our character.
Go on.
That's not right. I thought it was Casper.
Oh shit! Sorry. I fucked up, guys.
It's okay, George.
It's the vodka. It's the vodka. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Well, I'll fix that up. Hold on. What did I say?
Right, I'll start again.
um,
So he just absolutely trounces him. He just destroys him, doesn't he? He doesn't even have to try. He's just like, this is so easy. Broya comes in and he just parries it, and I could just imagine the smirk on his face. It's not described, but I can imagine.
Yeah, no, and then then wasn't it said that like he just easily just stepped aside and stabbed him in the wrist, the ribs, and then that's the next touch. He just basically shimmies and then just pushes him out of the circle, right?
Yeah, it's almost comically bad, like how bad Broya's fighting is.
And then all right. There's I know in the books for sure there's not any indication. Just want to know if there's any kind of background information, but whoever joins the contest, it's not via region, right? It's just whoever is willing to enter the name into the contest. Is that correct?
Presumably, but we don't get any background as far as I know.
Right, we don't. Right, okay, just want to make sure.
It's like you have to be. You don't. Well, yeah. It's you can enter the contest no matter what.
If you're a nobleman.
No, except for West. West is not noble. West is not noble.
Oh, he's special though.
It's one of the only ways
special.
that non-noblemen can enter, and that's a well-known thing. So actually, I think a lot of normal people can join.
Oh, okay.
I guess just who's willing to go through the trials.
Because noblemen have so much more time to be able to train and practice and all that.
Okay. So I guess we could see that, like, basically Giselle wins, right? He wins, and I gotta say, here he's still a prick. I know you guys are talking about like, oh, this is growth, but no, still a prick.
Yeah, he
offers his hand. The guy's pissed off, understandably, because who is gonna be happy that they lost? And then Giselle goes, shrugged pleasantly. It's not my fault you're shit. It's like, all right, fuck off. Fuck off.
He is just a bad winner, which is so much worse than a bad loser.
Yo, for real. Being a bad winner is so God.
I mean, to be clear, it's kind of like I don't think that he's like a different person. We're just seeing the more depth to Giselle. We're seeing that like he's changed in certain ways and subtleties. You know how he sees other people. He cares more than we think he cares more than we originally think he does.
Oh,
yeah, but still, he's a prick.
He's still an ass.
He's still an ass.
Still a prick. Still a prick. All right.
And I love how we get every single word for a stupid person in this little passage. So we get idiot, dunce, bumpkin, oaf. It's just so many descriptions of this guy, and he just thinks so lowly of him. Probably because, this is probably how Giselle would have been if he hadn't had that push.
Right. Yeah, no, he would have been flailing like a goofball.
Exactly.
Right.
But he could never admit that to himself.
No. Giselle's better than that.
We talked about it before, right? Like he hates people who are like him. He hates Brent, And this guy is, like you said, that's a good point. I never thought about that, but this
Why
guy
would
is
you say
another
that?
representation of that.
Why would you say he hates Brent because he's like him?
Yeah, because
I think
Giselle. I'm sorry, to be clear, he wants Brent to be.
I definitely
He
think
knows
you're
that
right,
Brent-
Harrison. I think there is.
Brent is trying to be like Giselle, right? Brent wants to be
okay.
like
I understand
Giselle,
what you're saying now.
and
I
Brent
understand
is
what you're
like, and Giselle's like, you don't deserve to be me. This guy's another representation of that.
Yeah.
He's like
saying.
trying to be in the contest, trying to be a contestant, and he's like, "Ha, you don't even deserve to be a contestant. You're so bad, you suck." You know.
Oh, okay. So I understand what you're saying now. You're saying Giselle is resistant to men that are trying to not take his place, but that want to come up to similar.
Be on his same level.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. I like that. That's a good one. Harrison, look at you. Come with the fire. So, so afterwards, basically, we know Giselle Dan Luther wins, and now we see him. He's drinking with West, Jallenhorn, Caspa, and Brent. Right? All of them are celebrating except for, funny enough, Giselle and West. They're not really drinking. You know. Caspa is telling Giselle like, "Oh, my cousin's so hot for you. Oh, she's so hot for you, and rich, so rich. oh, come on, Giselle." And Giselle's like, "Oh, that bitch skinny," right? That's basically what he goes through his mind, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's in love with
basically
Artie.
just thinking, yeah, he's
Right.
thinking about Artie. He doesn't.
Right.
He does
Whoa,
not
whoa,
give
whoa,
a fuck
whoa.
about any other women.
Right, yeah. Look, love, bit of a strong word. Let's tone it down. He's just, every time he thinks of Artie, he has a bit of a chub in his pants. But let's not say love. Let's not say love.
I think he does love her though.
Hashtag chub. But
I think he does love her at this point though. To be honest,
you think he does at this point?
yeah, because he.
Oh,
Now it's not like this. It's not like this, deep affectionate love that you hold with your partner. It's like this infatuated love. But I think he has fallen for Artie. He's always thinking about her. He cares about what she thinks. He doesn't. Whenever she's hard on him, he like automatically is like, "Oh, I'm sure she didn't mean that," and he, basically pulls everybody off to the side. I mean, we've all been there to the point where we're like starting to fall for somebody, and we're like, "Oh, their issues? No, I don't see them. They're every good quality. I can't get them off my mind. Everybody else looks fucking terrible compared to her. You know?
red flags? What are red flags? I don't care. Right. Okay, Harrison. I like this. George, you were gonna say something?
I just love how drunk Jallenholm and Casper get here, and they're just
Oh yeah, they get hammered.
they're so silly. Schmitten. It's quite schmitten.
It's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
and then I think Brent asked when are we gonna get started going to the north, and then Wes is just like, "Ugh, we'll be Wes is at this point, you could say Wes has a defeatist attitude, but he doesn't really have a defeatist attitude. He has a realistic attitude. And
You have to be realistic.
You have to be realistic. And he just says like, like what Jallenhorn and Casper and Brent, they're all like, well, we'll give these savages a thrashing. And then Wes is just, have you seen the state of our levies at least? Which will make up the bulk of an army, right? They can't walk. They can't fight. It's a disgrace. And then Jallenhorn's like, oh, George, you take over because I'm not going to disrespect the Northern English accent.
I don't think I can even do that one, but
yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. If you don't, I will.
Yeah,
I
you
will.
can.
And you do not. I will take it over, and you do not want me to do that, George. You better take it over.
which one are you talking about?
Jallenhorn's accent.
Oh, okay. It's like a Newcastle accent for anybody who's interested.
Yeah, Newcastle, which I like that beer. So go ahead.
Oh,
They're nothing but fucking savages, a lot of them. We're not coming
You sound like yourself, George. What the fuck?
Like Giselle did that idiot today, eh? That's my closest to a Newcastle accent. I can't do it.
They're
You're a
nothing
bunch
but
of
fucking
savages.
savages, the lot of them.
They're-
We'll knock them on their asses. Like Giselle did that Idiot's Day. Home before winter, everyone says so.
That was awful.
Hope before winter, everybody.
That was horrible. That was horrible. I told you. I warned you, George. I warned you. Wait, George. You told me what's West accent at this point? You told me before.
The West is like the sort of generic Northern, like Yorkshire
Generic-
almost.
Oh, Yorkshire. Oh yeah, they won't let me back into Yorkshire, right? Kind of thing.
Oh.
Wait, here's the thing.
Stop doing that.
Wait. I got that from the great. I got that from the Great British Baking Show. Leave me alone. I can't make a Yorkshire pudding.
Oh.
All right, let's just stop all this right now.
Oh.
I'm killing George's ears right now.
Oh, you're killing everybody's ears, bro.
Harrison, be quiet. You're from the South. What do you know,
What the hell are you talking about?
boy? No, but okay.
I really like this sort of the anti-defeatism, just because West is he's being realistic.
Yeah,
but everybody's like, no, we'll be owned by winter, which is
it's
A classic. Well, they
that's
say
a
that for World
classic
War One,
lie.
didn't they?
Every single war that has ever happened is like, don't worry about it, we'll be owned by winter, and
right.
it always
They said that
does
during
never
World War
work out.
One, didn't they?
They did,
Right.
they did.
Yeah, it's funny enough that I feel like there's always been a famous person in history that's always said that same utterance, like we'll be home before winter, especially when they go to war for some reason against Russia, like back then. You know what I mean? Like back in the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, where you like no. Napoleon, you didn't get the memo from the previous other idiots that tried to invade Russia during the middle of winter? Like, come on. How do I
Exactly,
explain
yeah.
that?
And
Okay,
because
thank
winter
you.
is such a like a harsh, especially so far north, that
Well,
is
we
like
see
a
later
really
on too.
Yeah, we do see later on that winter, and for soldiers especially, you can't get as much food. You have to rely on rationing. If you're not warm enough, well, that's kind of it.
Yeah,
So
there's a point.
winter is probably the worst enemy of the soldier.
For sure.
I mean,
Logistics in the
there's
supply chain is always going to kill more men than it intends to. More men than the actual battles itself. Because
but,
no one
you
can
don't
ever
want-
get it right.
But you don't want your average soldier or officer to kind of be thinking that way. You want them to be optimistic, so that they're ready to go
Right.
and
Right.
fight
Yeah, I guess,
without any sort of hesitation.
Right. You want to keep the morale up. Yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Well, like you said, mentioned Napoleon. Napoleon famously quoted saying, "An army, is run
Marches
by
on
its
its stomach."
Yeah,
Yeah.
marches
Mhm.
on its stomach."
Your stomach. Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, like, a character in the next book basically mentions how, like, man, I used to think that rain and snow were such a nice thing, but now I know they're fucking terrible if you're out in the wilderness because
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same thing. We living
It's
in
not.
modern day cities, we're like, oh, summertime, oh, yay, springtime, yay, and it's
Mhm.
like, it's not like that. If you're living out in the wilderness, every season is like, okay, we got to be prepared for it. We have to be prepared for the heat. We have to be prepared for the water. We have to be prepared for the snow.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very true. And I think there's a famous Napoleon, I don't know if it's a quote or an anecdote, but like his favorite meal before battles, if I'm not mistaken, was like boiled potatoes and onions or something. And he would like be eating right before, and while he's eating, he's giving commands to his commandants. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, take him on the flank here, like Napoleon, for all his faults, it's pretty badass. Like, let's be honest.
Oh, he was awesome,
all right.
bro.
Like I know, George, you guys have a certain, we can talk it out here on
It's probably
air.
the reason why the English hate the French.
It's probably, so is that not the 100 Years War? Okay, got it.
Oh, that's
it was
it,
all
but,
it was
long
all the
history.
It was all the short fucker, basically. Okay, got it. So yeah, so we were talking about Brent Jallenhorn, they're kind of like, I don't want to say appalled, but they're like, yo, Wes, why are you bringing down the mood here? We're trying to say, like, we can spank these Northerners. And Wes is like, you don't understand. These guys is crazy. They're crazy. And and then he's like, never mind. Yeah, you're kidding. We'll be okay. I guess he's like, Wes is vacillating between being realistic, but also not trying to bring down the entire mood, especially when they're being very celebratory over Giselle's victory in the contest. And
Right.
right, you like whenever that happens, it's like you can't help but feel like that. How do I explain this? Like you want to be honest, like, oh, listen, this isn't going to be easy. But then it's only after you say something, then you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh, I'm taking away from the point of this moment, which at this point is like celebrating Giselle's victory, right? So Wes kind of brings it back down. It's like, no, you're right. We'll it'll be okay. All right, promotions, blah blah blah. It's okay. But then, even though you try to bring it back, everyone's still just kind of like uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. That's another very sort of realistic situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we move on, and Giselle and West leave.
Oh yeah, here we go. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I love this how Giselle just kind of thinks, "Oh God, what if he's found out about the letter? What is it?" And he's like getting ready to get punched in the face. And West drops the news that they're going to be leaving for England in 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple of notes. I have 2 notes. I have actually, I have 3 notes because I forgot to mention one prior. If we can mention real quick, prior from the previous thing when we were talking about Giselle and the fight with Curtis D'Ambroya, can we not appreciate, even though Wes was like really like determined to beat the shit out of Giselle in the previous sparring session and everything, he's a good mentor. He's a very good mentor for Giselle, right? I think we can appreciate. Yeah, I think we can appreciate that. And then also,
Well, he considers him his friend. He doesn't want.
yeah,
him
he
to
does
fail.
consider him his friend. And even though he, you could say whatever you want to say, I feel like Wes was giving better advice than Lord Marshal Varuz. But I think that it's a cornerman thing when it comes to fighting. So I think and I like the difference because Joe, how he wrote it, was like Varuz is almost on the other side of the fence, quote unquote. I don't know if that was correct, but Wes is the one that's right there in front of his face, telling him what to do.
Yeah.
And that's how it exactly is in fights. You have one person right in front of you. Everyone else is behind, quote unquote, the fence, the ropes, the cage, whatever you want to have you, whatever you want. That's who they're just shouting advice from the side, but you're really only taking advice from who's directly in front of you. And I like that bit that Joe Abercrombie threw in there. I also like the bit that, which we all have been, is that whenever you're sober and you're around drunk friends, that's a weird experience. Like the conversations, what you think is normal conversation while you're drunk versus when you're sober, you're like, holy fuck, do I really talk like that?
Yeah.
I think we have to like talk about that, right?
I mean, that's absolutely true, and I think that's another one of these things that bleeds in from the real world. That and I think he even says it here. The conversation of the drunk is only interesting to the drunk.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, I think anytime we've been drinking on here together with each other, we're always at the same level ish. None of us are like, but like we have to be. If one of us are drinking, we all have to drink. Otherwise, it's not. I mean, the experience. We're all gonna be like, this guy's fucking weird. What the hell is this guy's an idiot?
Yeah, George is over here drinking Grey Goose vodka, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna get some bourbon from the homeless man on the corner.
You buy your alcohol for a homeless man?
Yeah, doesn't everybody? What?
Yeah, he fucking brews it. He's got like a little sack on his back, with the barrel.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have the hillbilly hat where I just get my my alcohol from a straw.
There you go. You learn something new about American culture every day.
There
Damn it,
you go, George. Damn it, George. Ruining it for the rest of us. Also, one last note, real quick. At this point, well, like what you said, George, he asked West asked Giselle to come. I want to speak to you alone. I don't want anyone else to know about this, right? And Giselle's worried. He's like, oh fuck. He's like, fuck. He's like, fuck. Major West, he knows, and I'm gonna get a straight up crack in the face, and then he tells them about like when they're gonna disembark for the war. But saying, I just gotta say, at this point, you just know Giselle's nerves, they've got to be like frayed. They got to be at their breaking point at this time because of the contest. Artie, West, all the stuff he's worrying about. And he's actually like being, how do I say this? He's not being flippant about it. He's really being he's considering the effects, or not. Am I
The
being
consequences of his
the
actions.
consequences of his actions, right? And so like that's gotta be nuts, right? What do you think? No?
Oh, definitely, and definitely for someone he takes so seriously, you know, I think West is probably more than a friend to him, even though he won't admit it because he's a commoner. I think Giselle sort of sees him as like a role model.
Yeah, he would never admit it, right? There's that moment inside the tavern where, Wes leaves and John Holmes like, man, he's talking to
Oh
Phoenix
yeah,
and all that.
yeah. We gotta talk
And
about this.
Giselle basically says, shut the fuck up. He's a soldier. He's been in war. You don't know anything. He knows what he's doing. So stop it. And that's the first time we ever see Giselle stand up for anybody other than himself.
Oh,
And
100%.
and it's I was always surprised by that. I was like, oh, he does
Yeah, I
care
like.
about Wes.
Yeah, no, I honestly I did like it. I really, because I didn't think of it as like. I feel like some people might have been like, "Oh, Giselle's just trying to show up, or trying to save face by the fact that like he's interested in Artie by defending West." But the thing is, we're getting Giselle's perspective. He's not trying to like, as far as like, of course, it's a book, it's a written perspective point of view. He's not trying to defend his position against somebody. Like, as far as he knows, West has left. He doesn't need to defend West. He doesn't need to, but he does out of a sense of camaraderie. Because as much as he, a couple chapters ago, we talked about how like Giselle's like, well, West doesn't have any common blood. I should have been on Lord Marshall's Burr's staff of fucking fucks. Like, no. Giselle will defend West because that is his friend. As much as he wants to pretend to look down upon him, that's his friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll talk to Brent, who Brent is being at the beginning. Brent, we feel bad for Brent. Then we see Brent bring a little bit of a shit. It's like I like how Joe sends us on these little whirlwinds of like, oh, we identify with these characters, and then other times we're like, this character's an asshole. I really do appreciate that.
100%. 100%. That's exactly what my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Expound, please, George.
No, I mean, you've just said it perfectly.
All right, I'm gonna stop taking all the air out of this conversation. Then, George, continue.
You're doing my job for me.
No. Go ahead. I want to hear George. I want to hear your perspective on how badly Giselle shits on Brent. Go ahead.
I just love it as well. Brent is just constantly his target for the reasons that Harrison said earlier. He sees, he might see Brent as a bit of a rival, and even though he's not on the same level, money wise or status wise or anything like that, as far as we know. But he does just put him down here, doesn't he? He just goes, "You don't fucking know anything," and he does. So go fuck yourself, Brent.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but say the line that Giselle says that really just hurts Brent. Go ahead, do it.
What do you know, Brent, except how to lose at cards and empty a wine bottle?
Ooh, ow.
That is
That
tough,
hurts.
isn't it?
That's deep in the psyche. That's like, ow. So you're good for nothing except just being shitty. Okay, great.
And then moving on, we get Giselle gets up to leave, and he's just absolutely sick of his friends or his companions, and he just walks out. See ya. I've got a train.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this image of Casper having fallen asleep, and he's just covered in like sticky wine, going show shoot.
It's like, oh, sure.
And that's that typical drunk person thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want everyone to be drunk with you, even if you've already
Right.
passed out. It's still too, it's still too early to end the night.
Mm-hmm. Right, for sure. Yeah. Hey, Casper's just like, well, why would you leave? Right. Mm-hmm. Harrison, were you going to say something? I thought I heard your voice.
No, I was just listening to you guys. You got so many good points about the conversation, how they feel about each other, and everything. So we're at the point now where Wes left, and then Giselle follows him out there, and Wes told him that they're leaving to England, and Wes was like, or Giselle thought he was going to be on to him about Artie, even though he doesn't know about it. But he tells him we're going to be leaving, And Giselle, even though Wes is giving him, kind of telling him a favor, he's like, "Hey, I just want to give you the heads up on the down low." Just Giselle's more focused on Artie. Like, yeah, we've seen him defend Wes just a second ago, but he still is putting himself first. He doesn't. He's like, "Oh, okay, whatever, Wes. I'm just glad you're not onto me," basically.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
And then they part ways, and Giselle kind of goes back and forth. He eventually convinces himself that he is gonna go see Artie at the at Herod the Great's foot.
The statue. The statue.
And so he convinces himself slowly. He's kind of thinking like, oh, he's like, we could never be married, but maybe we could be friends with benefits. Maybe that would work. And then he's like, no, that's even worse. That's even worse. That's terrible for a reputation. He's like, but then again, maybe it wouldn't maybe she'd be down for it. Maybe she would. And then he eventually just goes for it, leaves, and he gets to the statue. He's looking around, and then Artie scares the shit out of him.
Yeah. And I like how he does kind of resolve to go home and go to bed, and then he just finds himself there. I like that. I think that's it. That's very good.
He's like, took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, turned, and set off towards the Agrion. And next thing you know, he's like, well, I'm at the statue of Herod the Great. I'm just going to hang out here for a little bit.
So, just Artie, like George had mentioned earlier, she says, wake up. And which I think is hilarious because that's the kind of thing that somebody who's like trying to freak you out says, like, wake up, this is all simulation. Like that's why she said that kind of thing. She said it just to creep him out. Like no one said, she would have just said, hey Giselle, but instead she was like, wake up.
Yeah.
And so she says that to him. He sees her, and he's like a little nervous about seeing her. And she basically immediately knows. She's super smart. She immediately knows. Okay, Wes put you up to this. That's why you haven't seen me. Are you afraid of him? And Giselle's like, yeah, I kind of am. And he's
absolutely, yeah. And he straight up admits it, doesn't he?
Yeah, which I think it's fair. I mean, Wes is kind of a scary guy, especially when he gets angry.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Artie her mood kind of does something interesting, right? You can assume that. I always assume she's been drinking, right? Because she's been waiting there, sure, but she's fucking wasted. She always is. And she starts basically, I mean, it's very clear. She starts coming on to him, she's like, oh, are you gonna let have my brother stand in the way? She starts like giving him the fuck me eyes. She starts like walking around him, like being all seducey like, and Giselle's like, fuck it. She leans over and she leans up and she kisses him. And she doesn't just like, ooh, gives a little peck. No, she fucking thrusts that tongue in there, starts going ham. And Giselle is like, oh, Jesus Christ, she's a good kisser. God damn it, she's hot. Oh, I can't handle this. Fuck this. I'm not. I don't care what happens now. I'm gonna be with this girl. I like her.
He's putty in her hands. Yeah.
Yeah. And
but can you give credit to Giselle? Or right before he's like, oh, I gotta tell her I can't see her anymore. But the fact that she's just walking around him and he's just like, uh-oh, I got a chubby.
And just wears down his resolve like immediately.
Exactly. Like she just has him wrapped around the finger.
George, I'm curious. Why do you think Artie, has this kind of takes these actions and acts the way she does with him here?
I think that's it. I think she kind of knows his character better than he knows.
She already understands it.
This isn't the first time where he's resolved to do something and then just immediately crumbled.
Also, do you think Artie has navigated this kind of person before?
Possibly.
I don't know. I'm not sure. As a shout out to my own video that I put on YouTube, I think Artie is one of the smartest people in the series.
Sure. For sure.
Just the way she acts and the way she just is not able to exercise it very often. But here, she's having her fun. Even after they get done kissing and he's like, when can I see you again? She's not smiling like, oh, stop it, I can't wait to see you again. She's smiling like, I fucking got you. Like, you're mine now. Like, right. I think she is knowing like, my position in society can only be elevated by me being with somebody of higher status. So she's working towards that.
Right, but like here's the thing. You're very correct in that, and I will agree. And I would have to say the only way she can maintain that is by she has to maintain control over that relationship. She can't be the one subjugated to the whims and wishes of fucking Giselle, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I think that's
good
it.
voice
I
crack
think
one.
Giselle RT is definitely a very independent character. Like she does obviously somewhat care about Giselle, but like you said, Harrison, like she
Yeah.
is clearly manipulating him here.
In a
Yeah.
way, yeah, you could see it's not you. It's
And
very obvious to see that there's like a push and play here, right? A push and pull kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I
I
don't think
have a
we've.
question.
I don't think once over the since or with all of Giselle and these interactions has Giselle ever had the upper hand.
Never, never. That dude's never had the upper hand.
And we get
But I
that
do
as
have
well.
to.
We get the game of cards analogy. You know, she calls his bluff and won a pile of money from him. And I think that when we get that mention of that analogy is when we know that Giselle is just fucked up.
Right, for sure, for sure. And I want to ask you guys. She says, where is it? It's right here on my I have the page holder right here. Oh, he's like when she's like, oh, my brother said something, didn't he? And he goes, what, about fencing? And she goes, no, numbskull, about me. Is numbskull an appropriate term at this
It is a
time,
bit
George?
anachronistic, isn't it?
It is, right? It's like anachronistic, right? Is it?
It's
Or-
out of time.
I don't know what that
It's
means.
definitely yeah. It means it's just
What?
in the wrong time period, basically. Because I'm pretty sure numbskull is it's like an 80s
Right. 80s, 90s kind of
phrase.
thing.
Dang it, George, you broke our immersion. I mean, George, not George. Joe, damn it, George, you broke our immersion.
George, Joe.
George, Joe,
But-
Jeff. That's why I was getting you guys
You're done.
confused.
You're done. but I thought about that. I was like, oh, that's a very interesting turn of phrase right there. Like numbskull. I have literally never read, excuse me, anything like that, similar to like that, in all the fantasy books that I've read.
No, it is definitely more of a modern thing. Although I have just looked it up, and it's actually comes all the way back to the 1700s. So
Okay,
there goes my
and-
fucking theory.
Hey, oh, listen. We are right. Right is might. Might is right. Kind of thing.
Sure,
Fuck that.
sure.
Sure. So basically, Giselle, we know that Artie is maintaining control over this whole relationship at this point, right, guys? Like, if Giselle's not near her, then Artie controls it, right?
Mhm.
So she walks away, and Giselle's just utterly confounded as she walks away. And his last words, just George, you like to say the last line of the chapter? Go ahead.
Yes. And I love that. I love the one word shit. But
Damn
he just beforehand, he does have this inner monologue about how his resolve would leak away like a piss from a broken chamber pot,
Ember Pond. Right, yeah, that was the best. Oh,
which is just a lovely turn of phrase.
it's the best. But it's true. It's so it's so honest. Like you think you have a wall, you think you have something built up, and then it's all shattered in front of you.
Mhm.
Well, what would you guys rate this chapter at?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I will rate this chapter. I'll go first, so this way there'll be no accusations. I'm gonna go 6 and a knuckle out of this chapter for this rating.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Um,
I like it because how do I explain it? I mean, the beginning part is like obviously Giselle is a little bit too. How do I say? Dude, you like yourself a little bit too much. It's
Yeah,
like,
he's very vain, isn't he?
very vain. It's like, ugh, Jesus Christ. And then, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I'm being too harsh because I do resonate with Giselle's the apprehension, the nervousness of entering the circle against his opponent versus fighting his opponent and then the aftermath and then meeting someone that you're not supposed to meet. Like I resonate strongly with that, but then maybe I'm too harsh on Giselle on the whole like the vanity. I think maybe I'm gonna revise real quick. 7 out of 9 fingers for me for this chapter.
Bloody hell.
Yeah,
You've got
sorry,
my
guys.
score again. I've got to give it a 7 out of 9 as well.
Oh, Georgie! Go ahead, George.
Because we get the vanity at the beginning, we get the setup for meeting Ardy, we get the prelude, and then the actual first round of the contest, and then we get him drinking with his friends, and then we get the meeting with Ardy as well. It's just full, jam packed with stuff. This chapter,
dude, Georgie, love it, fucking love it. Giving you a high five afterwards.
All right, well, it looks like I'll be the contrarian. Again.
Oh no!
I'm gonna give it a much lower score, and the reason why is because. Hey, Jeff, you shut the hell up.
Oh, sorry. I'll shut up.
Because I obviously I like everything that happens, but honestly, it's just kind of like going through the motions for me. Like we know he's gonna go to the contest. He beats the first guy. It's all just nerves. So I think it's accurate, but we the main reason I feel like for that whole segment is so we can see Ladislaw and to Therese, and we see him. Oh, okay, he's beat the first guy in the contest. We get to see Berbo Dangor, so we get these little introductions. Okay, fine. We get to see Giselle. The main thing in this chapter for me is Giselle's kind of difference in character and his decision making and where he's going to be at in life. And, he's kind of in this in between space. But honestly, I think that's all this chapter really has for me. If we're not counting like we're introducing these side characters that might show up later, it's just kind of going through the motions. They've been drunk before, they've been at the bar before. He sends it for West. That's the only difference there. He kisses Artie rather than push her away. That's the only difference there. And even the first time I read this, I wasn't a huge fan of the chapter. To me, honestly, this is going to be a 3 out of 9 for me. I know it's a big chapter, but it's just kind of like it's like a whatever chapter. Like we get to see Giselle's stuff, but that's it. Everything else, and again, don't get me wrong, the chapter is a good chapter in a series. It's out of compared to all the other chapters in the first little series. To me, this one is kind of like a chapter. I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest.
George, can we
can't win them all, Jeff. Can't win them all.
Yeah. No, Harrison just doesn't understand the youngin' in him.
I'm just trying to make sure that we don't have the same score each time.
Oh, we get it. We get it. You Gen Zer, you need to be unique and like express yourself and speak your truth. Blah 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 blah. Oh. Oh, honestly, seriously, Harrison, great job. Seriously, I love the explanation of your score, your rating. I love it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, and of course, no problem. Well, in that case, then Georgie, you want to talk about the character spot?
I don't think I could be trusted, to be honest. But our character spot for the week is Lieutenant Casper.
Lieutenant Casper.
And
is there an appropriate is there appropriate accent for the introduction of Casper?
He's just very posh.
He's very posh.
Very posh.
So Lieutenant Casper. Lieutenant Casper. Lieutenant Casper.
He's doing it again, George.
He's doing it again. No.
He's doing it again.
So Casper is interesting to me because he is just like you said, he's posh. Like his accent, Pacey gives him a posh accent because it's literally, what does he do? He just doesn't care. Like he's the kind of rich guy who you want to hang out with. The guy who is just like, yeah, I'm rich, so what? Whatever. I just live life. I just enjoy it. Yeah, I'm rich. I can afford to get drunk every day if I want to. Yeah, I don't really have to worry about normal things in life, but so what? I'm just living life. And like, I would love to be Casper's friend, not because he's rich and buys me things, but because he's so like uncaring about the world. He's just like I wouldn't even say he's ignorant. He just knows that I'm secure. Why do I need to bother worrying about XYZ?
And
I'm
on top of that,
enjoy what I have.
Yeah, and on top of that, he's a solid bro. He just always has everyone's back. He's constantly sticking up for like Brint. You see, he's trying to set up Giselle with his cousin. You know,
Yeah.
he's just a all around nice guy, and you don't see a lot of that in this
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. Casper definitely is a very nice guy. Like you no one can dislike Casper. If you dislike Casper, you're a serial killer and I will not hear anything different. Right? Like think about it.
Yeah, he's pretty great. To him and Jallenhorn, they're probably some of the nicest characters in the whole series.
Mm-hmm. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover Dark Work and Words and Dust.
And as always, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit. Of course, most of you have probably seen us there. We're at Circle of the World Podcast on all of those platforms except Twitter, where we are COTW Pod.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts on. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps to spread our reach. Thank you all again for listening.
It's not my fault, you shit.